Today I'm going to talk about doing research coherently with a little bit use of statistical procedures. Uh, you can do research without using any statistical procedures. Therefore, today this presentation is about how you can help your research, your data analysis with the help of use of some statistics. Okay, let me discuss this picture in terms of research design. So research is just like a hunting expedition. You clearly think about your objective, what you want to achieve. You clearly think about the gadgets which you need in order to be able to do the hunting. You know where you will find your hunt, so you go to that area. You have someone to guide you, the experts of the field, the authors, so you also take some guidance from their earlier work. So all these things together give you better results, whether you are doing a hunting expedition or you are doing a research project. So clear objective and clear thinking about where you will find your data, where you can get your guidance from, and what sort of gadgets you should have. You should be equipped with what sort of um, procedures which will help you generate answers to your research questions. So I present my thinking with the help of this diagram. Um, so in the first quadrant, I have placed aim and objectives, and I have shown that they should lead to your research design. So your research design must be aligned with your aim and objectives. Now, aim is sitting at the very top of all your research. So just like any other expedition or any other activity that you do in life, whether you have failed or you have been successful depends on whether you have achieved the aim or not. So if you have achieved the aim, then you have been successful. Otherwise, you have just either wasted time or you were doing things which were not directly related to your aim. So that's very important that you are all the time mindful of your main aim of the research. Then aim is usually broad. So in order to make it more um, researchable, you usually have few objectives which are defined by your aim. So if you achieve these objectives, you achieve your aim. So aim is split into, let's say, three objectives. If you achieve objective 1, objective 2, and objective 3, you have achieved your aim. But if your whole research is around this single objective and you completely ignore this objective and this objective, then you will only say that you have partially achieved your aim while you have not been successful in achieving the aim in its totality. So after specifying aim and after developing underlying objectives, it's important that now you work around those objectives. So it will be helpful if you develop research questions which are closely aligned with these objectives. So if you answer this research question, you achieve this objective. If you answer the other research question, you achieve second objective and then third. So your research questions should always come out of your research objectives. Now, research design is thinking about these objectives and how to find answers for those research questions. So how each question will be answered so that all research objectives are achieved. That's mainly you are thinking when you are developing your research design. Then you also think about data collection and how it will be analyzed. So where you will find your data, from what sources, and what sort of analysis you will be doing over this data in order to generate answers for your research questions. And this exercise, this research design led data analysis exercise, it is linked ultimately with your aim that when all these research questions are answered and hence you have achieved your research objectives, so ultimately you have achieved your research aim. So when you have finished your thesis or dissertation or project, you should be asking yourself, after I read this thesis or dissertation, can I say that I have achieved my research aim that I began with? If you can say that, yes, I have achieved, because I have achieved all my objectives with the help of answering all research questions which were related to those objectives, therefore I have achieved my research aim. And if you are confident, then that means that you have done good research. Okay, so now let's bring in the question of statistics. So just as I said that it should be the research aim which should be defining everything. So under this research aim, usually you have this aim because you want to find out something. You don't know and you want to find it out. So it's more a personal question, that lack of knowledge and you want to find answers. But at the same time, there is second dimension that answering those questions will be of interest to readers. So for example, there are many things that I don't know. For instance, let us suppose that I don't know what is the height of Mount Everest. So at the moment I don't know. I don't have a readily available answer. So I want to do research to find out that answer. So that will be very helpful for me as a person. But whether that will be of any interest to readers, because they can find that answer easily in other published sources. So they don't need my research to help them find that answer. So it will be interesting that whenever you are thinking about your research aim, it should be such that it should not only be of interest to you, but it should also be of interest to other readers. Having said that, you can think about your research either a pure exploratory descriptive study, that is, you you think that you don't understand a phenomenon or how things work at a certain place in certain organization, and you explore that and you describe that. So that can be done with the help of graphs, it can be done with the help of charts, tables. So that will be mostly descriptive kind of study. On the other hand, you can also do some statistical procedures after acquiring quantitative data. And those procedures, for sake of ease and comprehension, I am distinguishing between two major groups. One, I would say that those are differences studies, and the others, I would call them correlation studies or association studies. So let's try to understand that with the help of some examples. So let's begin with a very simple example, that I have a group of students, 16 males and 31 females, and who have been given few non-verbal reasoning questions, and they have been asked to find answers as quickly as possible. Now, the time they take to find those answers, those are recorded, so individually for each student, and that data is presented in the form of a box plot. So you can see the two box plots, one for female, the other for male. So as you can interpret it, this is the middle line, that is the 50% of um, females, how much time did they take. So we can clearly see that is somewhere, let's say 18. And if you look at the male students, how much time did they take? I think it is somewhere, let's say 22 or 23 minutes. I'm just approximating. So what we can see here, that clearly the mean time, the middle time, the median time is greater for male students as compared to female students. So from this, can we conclude that generally the females, they take less time as compared to males? Um, Hence, we generalize that students who are female are more intelligent in terms of doing non-verbal questions. Uh, Perhaps we can conclude this about this particular sample, yes, because the data is suggesting that. The problem is when you try to generalize that. So it is always very dangerous to jump to conclusions. We must investigate the data more before we jump to conclusions. So for that, we um, take help from some statistical procedures to give us a little bit more room for conviction that yes, we can generalize our results that we can see in this small data. So what sort of confidence, what sort of power this small scale study has for generalization purpose. So we can see here that yes, there is a difference, but is this difference statistically so significant that we can generalize this, whatever we have found here? And that's where we carry out statistical tests in order to help us do that. And the protocol for doing that is called null hypothesis significance test. That is, it's sort of a ritual, a game played where you just follow steps and then you look at the final result, and from that you conclude whether the difference that we see here, can that be generalized to the population as a whole, or the difference is statistically insignificant. Therefore, even though we can see a little difference here, but it is not good enough to be generalized. So what we can see from this example, that we can have two major types of studies here. One, as we have just seen, that was differences study, where we have two groups. So that can be any two groups. For example, it can be like a group of companies that have adopted, let's say, total quality management or balanced scorecard or some other new system, let's say some new IT system. And there is another group of organizations that have not used the same system. And you are interested in knowing whether, if you look at their profit figures, do you find any difference between those who adopted and those who did not adopt? Similarly, it can be between countries, that countries who have high growth rate compared to low growth rate countries. So whether they are different in terms of performance in other areas. So that can be differences study. And at times it can be for the same group but done twice at two different times. So, for example, a group of patients before they took the medicine and after they took the medicine, what is the result on their, let's say, blood pressure figures or their some other health indicators. So you can do that kind of studies, and using that small sample, you try to generalize whether that can be generalized to the population as a whole. The other kind of study is more regarding relationship between various variables of the same sample. You are trying to find out whether different characteristics of the sample they have any relationship with each other. That is, if one increases, the other increases, something like that. So either you have positive correlation or negative correlation or no correlation at all if the data set is dispersed like this. So, so you can have these two major categories of statistical projects. We are first looking at the differences study, and I have already shown you the example of differences between male and female um, students' time taken. So, using that kind of situation, if we have two groups or more, and we are trying to see whether their mean scores are different or not, so one is t-test, where you compare differences between means of two samples, while ANOVA, that is analysis of variances, that compares differences between means of two or more samples. So you can do ANOVA for two samples as well, and more than two, three, four, five. However, t-test is only done for comparison between two samples.